Welcome to a seminar today on how the cloud helps energy and utility companies ride the big wave of digital disruption. And I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by Arno van der Haak, who's the head of global business development for energy in AWS, and Keisha Garcia, who's the VP for digital foundations at BP. And we're going to hear perspectives from Arno on the wider energy sector, and then we're going to hear from Keisha about the journey that BP has been on over the last 5 or 6 years, which is a highly significant transformation journey. And very quickly, before we go on, my name's Dave Chapman. I'm the head of product and strategy at Cloudreach. So let's move on a slide, please. And I've covered that. Quick word on Cloudreach to start with, for those of you who don't know who we are. We're around a 12-year-old now, independent cloud native organization. We work on all clouds, and we've got 100% transformation coverage, which means from advisory all the way through migrations into modernization and then into cloud management at the end. We like to call ourselves boutique at scale, kind of easy to work with, but at the same time have 24/7 management support with global centers in Vancouver, Edinburgh, and India, as well as 6 hubs for professional services delivery across Western Europe and North America. We focus very hard on ensuring that we have the right people. So we take talent management very, very seriously, and we have got hundreds of accreditations across the different cloud providers. So we have skills that cover the whole spectrum of what's required to go on a cloud transformation. Next slide. This is a bit of a sense, given what we're talking about today, a little bit of a sense of what we've done with some of our customers in the energy and utilities sector. So I'll let Keisha talk about BP in a second, but we've been partners now for probably 8 or 9 years, I think, at this stage. GRT Gaz, who are a French organization, for those who are not aware, and they operate the longest high-pressure natural gas transportation network in Europe. With GRT Gaz, we set up a cloud center of excellence. We built an automated landing zone on the AWS platform, and we've helped them build a pledge to their business, so the IT organization, building a pledge to their business for 100% automation of account creation, incident management, and infrastructural deployment. And then that logo at the end is Genie Energy, who are a growing worldwide energy provider based in New Jersey. And they procure supplies of electricity and natural gas for retail and commercial customers. What we've done with them is we've also effectively helped them move on to the cloud, consolidate a lot of their existing portfolio as part of a move onto the AWS platform. And now we offer them managed services to help right-size that environment, reducing their spend by 25% or so. So we've got a number of other customers globally in this sector. So if you want to talk about that, we're happy to do that. But without further ado, let me hand the mic over to Arno, who's going to give you a perspective of AWS and the art of the possible for the sector. Arno.
Hey, thank you so much. Thanks so much also for the ability for us to share how we are helping our customers with business transformation. Is exactly as you just stated, Dave. And that's really what I want to focus on. What does it take to do business transformation? What does it mean when we talk about business transformation? And I think what you'll see when Keisha is going to talk about it, hopefully at the end of the discussion, it all falls together and we do understand what all these different pieces of the puzzle are. So let's get started and go to the next slide and really explain why Amazon is so passionate about providing the best tools possible to the energy industry in doing so. And as you can see, the main reason why we want to do it is our recognition that over the next 10-15 years, the global population will increase significantly, probably up to 10 billion people going forward. That really does mean that those 10 billion people want to have and need to have access to energy. And we all are very, very acutely aware that we really want to make sure that that is done in the most sustainable way possible. It's not something that we do just for our customers. We made it very clear over the last couple of years that sustainability is key to our core business. We've actually posted this message on our corporate website over 2 years ago, and really want to drive home the message how we can help and partner with our energy customers to drive the sustainability going forward. So let's have a look what some of those examples would be and how we are helping our customers moving forward in that space. The way that I really like to phrase that and to frame that really is to talk about two key pillars when we talk about helping transform, and it really is around transforming the core. In other words, the same stuff we've been doing in energy for the last 100 years, but also at the same time, and build the future of energy. And I hope that the emphasis on the word "and" really stands out. It is not just one or the other. We do believe that we need to do both. So transforming the core and building the future of energy. I know those sound pretty abstract at the current point in time. So give me the example on the left. Is an example, a real life field example from a German company called E.ON. And there we looked at what can the cloud do to do a traditional oil and gas operation. In this case, how would you develop a new field? How would you develop a green field? How many wells would you drill? Where would you position the wells? And what would be the sequence of those wells? A very traditional field development exercise. Now, by using the cloud together with our partners, as you can see here on the slide, we were able to double the recovery of that field, double the NPV that came out, the net present value that came out of that exercise. And more importantly, what did the cloud do? Well, we're able to use the near unlimited compute and the near unlimited storage capacity of the cloud to really drive that optimization. And to put some numbers to it, in this case, we did almost 200,000 reservoir simulations. And I know that the reservoir engineers in the room will probably go like, wow, that took forever. No, that took just a couple of days. And more importantly, because of the elasticity of the cloud, you can actually pay for that with your own personal credit card. So using the near unlimited compute and storage capacity to run these previously unimaginable scenarios, and in this case, really help drive the optimization of a field. At the right-hand side is an example from Lightsource BP in the UK. And really there it is helping to provide Lightsource BP that connection to its end user. So providing that platform to really power a smarter, cleaner home, as we say on the slide, and really allow the end users, the consumers of energy, to give them that choice where and how they want to buy their electricity. So two examples around transforming the core and building the future of energy. So if we progress to the next slide, it might be good to understand that when we look back at the years that we've been helping our energy customers, what the most numbers of use cases have been. And they really come in three big buckets. The first bucket that we see is around optimizing efficiency. It is really is driving costs down. It is helping to improve safety, personal safety for some of the people onshore and offshore, and is really driving that operational efficiency to new levels. So optimizing efficiency is one big bucket. The next bucket is around driving business agility. And really that is around providing insights, providing real-time insights that will help you as an energy customer really make better decisions, make faster decisions, and make better decisions to help drive your business. The third bucket that we see is around increased intelligence. And this really is around how do we now use all the data that comes together to really explore and actually find new businesses and new opportunities that we previously weren't even aware of. And really that is around accelerating that enterprise transformation at speed and again at scale. If we go to the next slide, it is probably good to understand where we see all those hundreds of use cases play out. And I think it's important that when I talk about energy, to really highlight that we talk about the entire energy value chain. So it's finding the hydrocarbons in the subsurface by using seismic, and using seismic again in this business transformational environment. We already talked about the reservoir engineering that is part of it. And of course, once these hydrocarbons have been discovered, it is transporting them through the midstream segment to markets, whether it's a downstream market for a refinery, of course, and then of course, ultimately, together with trading, also offering up that energy to end users. So really the traditional oil and gas value chain, all the way from exploration, all the way to delivering energy to our customers. And superimposed on that is quite a significant amount of work that we're also doing around what I would call these horizontal workloads, whether it's around your enterprise planning systems, whether it's ERPs or SAPs. It's around providing solutions for supply chain, again, across the entire value chain. So the takeaway message, hopefully from this slide, is, yeah, we do operate across the entire value chain, across all the lines of business, but also superimposed on that, almost the vertical supporting functions that are so integral in making sure that we can deliver success in this space. If we step back a little bit, and people ask, of course, that is great, I really understand what you're doing in this space, but how do I get started? Well, we do know that the best way to get started is with migrations. And we've seen traditionally migrations being the starting point for a lot of organizations, and it normally has been around IT drivers. More and more, we are seeing that organizations want to start the journey or accelerate the journey because of business drivers. And on this slide, what I have done is actually I've put those two together, and you can see this whole plethora of both IT drivers, mainly focused around total cost of ownership, agility, the ability to really react to market changes quicker, and of course the improved security that the cloud brings, but also then superimposed on what we are seeing more and more around those business drivers. The ability, as we talked about earlier, to be more efficient, the ability to share data across your own organization, but also outside your organization, and really bring in, for instance, a solution like OSDU that now enables you to share data, not just across your traditional silos internally, but also, for instance, with your joint venture partners, like Petrobras in Brazil is doing. So I think it's good to understand that we do see both sides of the spectrum, where these really important business drivers are, I think, becoming more and more important. And again, goes back to the title of this presentation: how do we help to drive this business transformation? And these are some examples. So if we go on the next slide, I just wanted to highlight a couple of examples where we see these traditional business outcomes. Of course, we do see the cost savings, great examples from Baker Hughes, from Woodside using their traditional seismic and seismic storage, putting it into the cloud and achieving 87% cost reduction. Very simple, but again, it helps drive TCO and drives up and frees up cash flow. Or we talk about migrating traditional applications to the cloud. And for me, the result from Oil Search, where we actually have migrated Schlumberger's Petrel to the cloud, and actually have seen an increase in collaboration, again driving business outcomes and more performance by 300%, I think is significant. I know that Keisha is going to talk in a moment around what it does for BP around business agility, some of the drivers for closing the European data centers. But it shows you the whole plethora of business outcomes that we are seeing now that really starts by driving these transformations, by starting the migrations, both from an IT perspective, but also from a business perspective. I wanted to zoom in on another use case, and it's a use case from our customer Cepsa, which is on the next slide, Hannah. This is Cepsa. Cepsa is a multinational based out of Spain, and they've started their cloud journey similar to BP a couple of years ago. And one of the first things they did is to say, you know what, we have these 8 different refineries all over the world. We really want to see what we can do and how we can really drive business outcomes by using cloud and cloud technology. And in this case, what they elected to do is actually ingest data from those 8 refineries. It's 170 million data points each day. And just to put it into perspective, that is 2,000 signals per second. I know that a lot of people are deeply in love with Excel, but I think there's no way that Excel is able to handle that amount of data. And not just these 170 million data points a day, but it also sets SEPSA up now, not just for today, but also for the future. So being able to have this structure where we are ingesting these tremendous amounts of data and making sure that the data will persist over the years to come for analysis. And we're talking here about petabyte level of data. And again, I think that is something that is truly transformational when we talk about how can we really change the way that we operate our businesses and how can we use these new tools to do so. What you're also seeing on this slide is that it's not just around the ability to capture data, to store data. It is the ability to ingest data from all these different networks, whether it's an IoT sensor, whether it's a SCADA system, and then on top of that, use those different levels of analytics and machine learning, as you can see in the slide. And it really brings us, as you can see on the slide, to some of the results. Not only were they able to save 2% on the energy bill, which is very significant for a refinery, but it also allowed them at the same time to increase the throughput by 2.5%. Very significant and relatively simple by using these tools that we have. Maybe it's good to go to the next slide and really understand that it has to be an integral solution. You cannot just do one without the other. And that, I think, is where AWS can really help our customers. And we provide, together with our partner network, actually the largest global partner network that's out there, everything from the silicon chip all the way to, and that's what we're talking today, to these global SIs that can help you implement that. So it's not a journey that you have to do on your own. It's a journey that we can do together, together with AWS, together with our partners, and really helping you across that entire spectrum of all the elements that you need to have in place to be successful. Where does that lead us? So now that we have an understanding how data can be liberated, how we can actually move data into the cloud, the tools that we have across the entire value chain to really drive those new insights like we've seen in SEPSA, it might be good to maybe look at where we think this is going. And that is really the next slide, is to really highlight what we are seeing as a development going on. There's a lot of attention at the moment around efficiency and in making sure that we continue to help our customers deliver on their outcomes. And it really starts with maintenance and maintenance applications. And we are seeing this progression now from traditional reactive-based maintenance all the way to not just predictive maintenance, which everybody thinks is very cool, but we're even moving now to prescriptive maintenance. And the only way to do that is to get the insights from the data, from the applications, and from the actual equipment that is doing that. So if we go to the next slide, please, Hannah. It is now going to that next stage and actually bringing more and more of those solutions that our customers have been asking for to bear. And I'm really pleased to share that in October, we launched, as part of this progression that we have seen with our customers, 3 new services specifically around this area, how you can use your own data to really drive efficiency for your industrial assets. So AWS Panorama, Amazon Lookout for equipment, and Amazon Monitron, I think, are the latest in our tremendous toolbox that we can help our customers with. So let's zoom in on just one of those, and let's have a look what Amazon Lookout for equipment can really do for you. So on the next slide, what we can see is some of the ideas that come out of Amazon for Lookout. The top slide shows a representation from Outlook for equipment. And if you look at the left-hand part of the slide, it really allows you to very quickly enable whether you have a normal or an abnormal situation for a specific piece of equipment, whether it's a compressor, whether it's a pump, or any type of equipment that you think is critical that you really want to monitor. Not just do you have that indication about normal and abnormalcy, but also it allows you to drill down really quickly and almost instantaneously to see what the contributing factors are that are providing that abnormal behavior. And what you can see on the right-hand slide, you get instantaneous insights together with the history. For instance, that pressure, vibration, and flow rate are out of their normal specs, out of their normal operating mode. And it is something that we really use the power of the cloud, the machine learning algorithms for, to really being able to highlight that very quickly. And it really moves us away from a situation where you have to train and really look for failure mechanisms, to really look at what's normal and what's abnormal. The same way that actually a human operator would do exactly the same on his rounds when he's checking the equipment. So what we have seen is this progression around how do we help customers get started on the cloud. Migrations, in particular migrations for business outcomes, have been a great way of doing it. And now we are seeing this uptake to actually expand that horizon with all kinds of new tools that enable us to really help our customers moving forward. I wanted to close out with 2 quick slides. So if we go to the next slide, please. The reason why I wanted to share that with you is to take away a little bit of the myth that is around how important it is to do this. The reason why I wanted to share this example from TC Energy is twofold. One, that's the reason why I picked these screenshots out of his speeches. TC Energy isn't fully completed yet on their cloud migrations. They've gone a long way, and they've been able along the way already to identify use cases that will help them to drive business outcomes. So I think that is the key message here, is you don't have to wait for years and years, do this whole migration. You can already get started to get significant results and insights by doing partial migrations, and really get started with finding those business outcomes, those real nuggets that can really drive and move the needle. And that is the last slide I wanted to share with y'all. So if you go to the last slide, please, Hannah. This is a great example where relatively simple, again, by using existing data, ingesting that data, migrating the data to the cloud, and then using very simple analytics to understand how drag reducing agents are helping to improve their operations, not just by understanding the right doses and the right amount of chemical to be used, but what you can also see here, it also now helps to optimize the flow rate. And that part, driving that efficiency, maximizing the production through the system, and making sure that we have the right amount of chemicals injected, not only saves OpEx, but also increases revenue at the same time. So the message that I really want to leave everybody with is AWS is here to help. We have the domain expertise across the entire value chain. We do have the tools and the systems across the value chain to help you achieve your business objectives. And I hope that you will get started similar to what TC Energy has done to really start to leverage the benefits of the cloud. With that, I want to hand over to Keisha, and hopefully she can share a little bit of their insight, how BP has been migrating and delivering business outcomes from a BP perspective. Over to Keisha.
Thank you, Arno. And as you and Dave indicated, BP has had a relationship with AWS and Cloudreach for quite some time. Our BP cloud journey really began in late 2015, early 2016, when we declared ourselves cloud first. And from that, developing a hosting strategy to reduce our dependence on our on-prem data centers and infrastructure and services. We partnered with AWS, Cloudreach, and several other partners to build and establish our capability and to operate and secure a resilient cloud services, along with leveraging a lot of AWS training tools, working with Cloudreach as well to build up our internal capability, scale, and skill sets and capabilities to build out our services. So in 2017, we started to readjust and realign our migration objectives to not only focus on reducing our fixed cost, addressing our end of serviceable life, but also adjusting our migration strategy and approach to realign in accordance to our business strategy and objectives. In a world where things are quickly changing, the volatility in the markets, things such as the pandemic, there was definitely a drive to have the ability to provide cost optimization opportunities. And these cost optimization opportunities that we were looking for were not just around cost, but also to provide us with more, a bit more nimble, flexible, and scalable solutions to quickly address our rapidly changing environment, the requirements and the needs to be quicker with our solutions, or quicker time to market, the need to simplify and automate our critical and key processes and get to the business outcomes a lot faster. Our journey had to shift, and our focus on our transformational activity had to increase, as opposed to just modernizing our estate or doing IS workloads, like-for-like migrations, and only looking at the benefit of reducing our fixed costs. We really needed to really figure out how do we address multiple concerns that aligned a lot closer and aligned a lot closer with our business strategy. And therefore, if we could do that, that would absolutely make sure that everybody was on board, from our executives to our CIOs of the different entities across our organization, to address all of our needs. So there was definitely a lot of realignments, a lot of making sure that we can get everyone on board, and a lot of the things that you mentioned, Arno, in your presentation around really figuring out how do we work together with our partners and their products, as well as the services and the niche skill sets from Cloudreach, to then be able to really optimize what we were doing and how we were doing it to really get after the business outcomes a lot faster. So we went away from that focus on being IT for IT and more aligned with the business strategy, as I mentioned in the model, and thereby really kicking into gear our digital transformation journey, getting absolute buy-in from executive leaderships. As you can see, the shift really paid off on the slides here, increasing our velocity, and now with over 1,800 application migrations in late 2018, all the way till 2020, where we closed 2 of our 8 mega data centers in the Americas. And then continuing on and furthering our partnership by creating the partnership that we kicked off in 2019, which was phase 2 of our agenda, which was focused on our European data center and moving up the majority of our workloads to AWS. This was where we really started to see the real big benefit and value add, because again, we started to do more transformational activity, replatforming, re-architecting, and really leveraging the cloud native abilities and capabilities that were afforded to us within the product, and going more towards our PaaS services and building a more evergreen and cloud native builds around how we were migrating. And then also, how do we do that at pace and working with the expertise that were necessary to get us there. So now we are more than halfway complete through our EMDC exits, with over 60% on the cloud, with a real big focus of, by the end of this year, being at least 80% across all of our estate on the cloud. And again, we're currently in the early stages of kicking off a lot of the phases across our regional data centers, rigs, and platforms as well, building off of all the iterative learnings and lessons learned, as well as the expertise that come to bear with working and partnering closely with, again, the likes of Cloudreach and AWS. So with that being said, on the next slide, this really talks about how we realized and the benefits that we realized from being, going from moving into our new Reinvent strategy. Our cloud transformation journey has been key to the enablement of our business to work more cohesively, enabling a faster build out of connected platforms, automation, and many other tangible benefits that I have a few here on the slides. But specifically, the cloud technology is foundational and underpins our Reinvent strategy that we kicked off in early February of last year, moving from an integrated oil company to an integrated energy company. And that's where we're on that journey hard and fast right now, with the purpose of scaling up our low carbon energy business and transforming our mobility and convenience offerings. So also working to drive down emissions in our journey to net zero, which again is something we've been partnering heavily with AWS on. And this thereby establishes our digital transformation as critical to our commitment to delivering long-term value to our customers. So this also helps to drive a world where cloud computing empowers our people to explore, think, do more, and create future innovation and career opportunities in things like the likes of IoT, AI, hyperscale computing, and again, accelerating towards a low carbon future. And on here, it just, again, shows quite a few of the things that we are focusing on and how those benefits are really extrapolated when you're working with a global energy company and the things that cloud computing allows for you to be able to do. And the three focuses of how we're delivering within our reinvent strategy is, again, performing, transforming, and reinventing ourselves. And this is really the cloud computing capabilities that have been afforded to us and that we've optimized and extrapolated have been extremely key to helping us to do this a lot faster. And again, foundational and underpinning to get to our business outcomes a lot quicker. On the transformation piece, it's increased our operational resilience. It's helped us to scale our strategic systems. And I know, Arno, you took us through how from end to end, from energy company, where it doesn't just stop in one particular area. It's all the way from production and operations to our customer and markets, and from our enterprise perspective and infrastructure perspective as well. And as we're transforming and performing at the same time, those are the things that we look at to really make sure that we're modernizing our digital foundations and transforming our legacy estate. Our group-wide migration factory end-to-end has helped us to do this at pace, at scale, and at cost. And then the seamless customer experience that it brings about from a performance perspective, allowing that flexibility to scale. And again, the time to market, that the benefits that you get. On the reinventing side, as I pointed out, there's just so many things that we are looking to achieve around those things, but specifically helping to get to net zero. So the low carbon partnerships goes both ways, whether that be us consuming and moving off of on-prem and generating the high emissions from the on-prem service to moving to AWS cloud, public cloud, which then allows us to utilize more efficient equipment, and also allowing us to partner with you all where you purchase green energy and do further things. And there's so many opportunities that this has afforded us to be able to work together closely, as well as more specifically and most importantly, attracting a new generation of talent and also increasing the capabilities within our existing talent that we have, and making it a fun place to work, because there's always new, latest and greatest opportunities and technology to work on, and keeping things evergreen. So all of these things and more have been the benefits that we've realized over time, and we're literally a little over halfway there and still have more to go, and also allowing us to propel us into where we need to be to help to meet our reinvent goals for our new strategy. On the next slide, this talks a bit about how we've been able to optimize a bit more around just the renewable energy partnerships that we've made and that we're doing specifically with AWS and our renewable growth ambitions, as well as the digital solutions using the cloud native technologies, which I spoke on a bit, and then our future foundations for transformation and applications estate, which opens us up to many possibilities, whether that be from an edge compute perspective and or public cloud perspective. It opens us up to be able to do many different things to meet our business outcomes and to meet our business use cases across the entire organization. And then on the AWS side, of course, the long-term renewable power or renewable energy offtake contracts that we've been able to work through with AWS, the credits and benefits towards the cloud transformation, and then again, more than, and now well over 900 critical applications that we've been able to move and migrate to AWS, and progressing along quite well in these partnerships. And as we get into more complexity, leveraging the expertise that are necessary to further utilize cloud native technology to then be able to transform and move us further down our modernization and digitalization objectives, and also helping to generate a connected platform across our space. It has been absolutely instrumental and key. And one of the key things that I definitely want to say is just to align also, Arno, with what your last point was, with the use case example that you gave, not being 100% complete before you see those benefits. You jump in and you continue to iterate, and you continue to find ways to further optimize and further extrapolate the value of moving to cloud. And being able to do those things and really get after it, continuing to improve, really set us up well for things that were, not really necessarily anticipated, such as this pandemic. And being able to do that at a level and a pace that was necessary to be able to move our critical applications on, our enterprise applications, it really helped us to be able to set it or put us in a right position when the pandemic came along and we were all working remotely, to be able to connect wherever we were around the world to our applications, to continue to do and perform at our best in our business at pace and how we needed to, because of the drive and some of the things that we were being able to do and build, working with the likes of, again, Cloudreach and AWS and other partners to be able to help us to move along our transformation journey. This has really set us up well to be able to service our customers. Again, whether that be within drilling, whether that be in wells and subsurface, so production and operations, to customer and markets within our trading space or within our refineries, and all of the automation and things that now that we are afforded to be able to do. So it's been a long journey and it's continuing, but we are improving as we go and really, really tightening up our partnerships and being able to optimize even further as we speak every day.
Keisha and Arno, thank you so much for your insights there. A fascinating half an hour, learning both around what the art of the possible is, but also the reality of trying to get it done and trying to get it done at scale. So let me start with that latter point. Let's talk about some of the challenges of getting it done at scale, Keisha, and what are the ones that resonate with you as the leader of this, and how have you managed to overcome them? Because it's true to say, I think the learning journey is littered with them, right, and it's to be expected.
Yes, and I think initially some of the things that we picked up on was just the slow start and debunking some of the myths, and as well as facing some of the realities of our legacy estate, and looking at, there could be so many competing priorities that are coming at you, as well as the need to move fast and do things faster, and only looking at things from a myopic view. And I think that's some of the things that we had to continue to work through. And then the ability to get everybody on board. That was a huge challenge initially. And it's about, one, truly understanding your overall objectives, and truly understanding each one of your business customers and your executives' needs and strategy, and what are they trying to meet, and then marrying those with what opportunities that you have, and really focusing on those to get everyone on the same page of the same objectives and the same outcome. And then being transparent as to how this needs to be a learning and iterative process. A lot of things coming out are net new. So again, you have to identify the right partners that bring about the right skill sets and right things to help you to grow in your capability and skill set, but also that have an equal partnership to be successful, and to really look at that and understand where you're trying to get to, what the business is doing, and how do you marry those and get everybody on board to be working in the same vein. Those are really some of the challenges we ran into initially. And it was a iterative process of working through it and making sure that we all lined up and got going, and continuing to be retrospective and looking at where we can improve, and then applying those things to the gaps that we would find is essentially what we had to work through.
Indeed, and it's, as we saw from some of the way that you talked through that, it's a profound change, both in terms of the technology, but also in terms of the organization around it. And I guess, Arno, maybe I can come to you and maybe talk about some of the effects of that scale of change that you've seen in other areas. Are there any of those that you'd particularly want to reflect on?
I think Keisha nailed it on the head. It is around an organizational transformation. And what we have seen is that there's probably a couple of things that need to happen to be really successful and deliver that at scale, whether that's in energy, whether that's in financial services, or whether it's in any of the other industries that we serve globally. And I think it starts off, as Keisha said, of having senior leaders being very clear, very crisp on a vision, and actually being able to communicate that to the organization, what that vision and what that mission is. And following that, it needs to follow through with understanding where do we start. And normally what we do find is that successful organizations that have gone through this example, and BP is a great example from that, is around setting a almost untangible goal with a very almost unrealistic timeline. And what I mean with that, it's not around incremental change. It
Right.
really, what we have seen that we really drive this adoption, that we drive this at scale, is by setting a bold goal, and then also setting a very compressed timeline. And that forces the organization to do things differently. And that is exactly, I think, what you want to achieve. And then, of course, it has to be supplemented with the right training, the right skills, the right competency, and we're able to do that and help out our organizations around the world to do so. But I think it starts with leadership vision. It starts with setting the right goals against a compressed timeline, and then making sure that people have the right tools to do so. And we're happy to help out in all of those three elements to make it a success.
Right. I think there is something in that last point about when BP started this journey, incredibly, there wasn't a huge amount of cloud professional services and cloud industry around to support that journey. It was a very early days. It was a very early days set of moves, which is paying some dividends now. And I want to come back in a second to the point you made, Keisha, around COVID response, for example. But yes, as Arno was saying, organizations that are newly going on this journey don't necessarily now need to wait to find all of the pitfalls and challenges themselves. They can reach out to the partner organizations. I should just say, I put this in the chat. If any of the listeners have got a question, do feel free to ping that in the chat, or just come off mute and ask the question. I'll be happy to pick that up. But whilst we wait for that, let's talk about the COVID response. So, what was it like, Keisha, and how did the transformational journey that you'd already been on, how did it help support the pivot that you had to make?
Well, again, the fact that we had moved quite a bit of our critical applications to the cloud already, as far as performance, and being able to connect remotely with everyone now, not necessarily being in our particular offices that are all global and places, but now in their homes, in remote locations everywhere. It's been awesome in the sense that it's almost as if we never shifted and shifted from being at home and into the office, with folks still being able to access all those key critical processes, the speed and the time, and being able to still share and work collaboratively across the globe on all kinds of things, with the fact that we were able to have accomplished shutting down our Houston data centers in the Americas and putting all of those applications onto the cloud, as well as now a lot of the stuff that we had done within the European data centers as well. It just made for a seamless transition for folks to be able to do what they needed to do at home or wherever they were and connect, whether that be on a mobile device, whether that be on their devices that they that they typically use to do their work day to day, or to connect into and run large processes with large data intensive processes that would have been almost impossible to connect and still work in a collaborative way. We were able to get ahead of that by utilizing cloud technology to be able to propel us to where we needed to be wherever we were. And it was seamless and definitely something that our business users, as well as everyone else, appreciated, that there was not a lot of stoppage in our performance and our outcomes of what we were able to do and generate working from home, and we're still doing it today.
Yeah, I'd just like to add on and really support the point that Keisha was making. We've seen organizations that were on the cloud seamlessly navigate this COVID crisis. I even put it as one of the use cases in my slide from TC Energy, that is again all in on AWS. The ability to all of a sudden provision new tools, new systems to their entire workforce really gave them a heads up. And I think the flip side is also true. I think companies that weren't on the cloud actually realized that they really were left behind, not because they didn't have the business agility to respond, but also a realization that they were spending far more money and spending even more capex and opex in actually getting to a more stable space. So companies that were on the cloud, very able, using agility to respond to COVID. They were saving money. They did not disrupt the business. And more importantly, and just to give two examples, being able, and that's the example I gave from TC Energy, being able to enable all your customers and all your employees to work from home with a single click of a button, I think was one. The other thing that we've seen is a tremendous uptake in our call center technology. So all of a sudden, a lot of organizations had to figure out overnight, how do we now serve our wider customer populations, and how do we do that remotely with people working from home? So we've seen those two elements really affecting. And again, I think the customers that already were on the cloud really had the upper hand and really had the business benefits of being in the cloud.
And Arno, just to build on that, are you seeing from multiple companies you're talking to yet any acceleration effect of COVID, not just in the cloud transformational aspect, so like migrations, but I'm thinking more in terms of the more profound digital transformation that's going on? One of the things that Cloudreach sees is that in all sectors at the moment, that that board level now, as a result of seeing the profound, almost existential threat that we've had to most businesses in the world, that tech has really stepped into playing a like a huge role in keeping everything running, and it was done so quickly in some cases. So even let's say legacy organizations that didn't have the advantage that Keisha was talking about were managing within a 2 or 3 week period to get their staff back online and get working again. But what we think that has done is like opened the eyes of C-level, and they've gone, actually, if we can do that, if we can do that there, why don't we just do that on an ongoing basis and maybe be a bit more ambitious and bring tech more centrally into the business conversation? So I don't know whether you've seen that.
So I actually look back at it on a couple of years where initially our customers were asking, what is the cloud? That has migrated to how fast can I go onto the cloud?
Right.
And exactly the questions we're getting now is, why are we not on the cloud? Yeah. So we've seen in a very short time span, and I think COVID has tremendously accelerated that by probably years, an understanding that the cloud is not just to store your pictures, but actually is an enabler for business and business outcomes. So yeah, I really fully agree with that, Dave. It is that tremendous transition, and COVID has really accelerated that understanding. And I actually like the word existential, that I think modern organizations can only survive and can only innovate and get ready for the future by using cloud as the vehicle to do so. Whether it's around the tremendous cost savings and benefit that come from around outsourcing their IT, but at the same time, I really in parallel driving new business and new business insights, but also creating new businesses that they haven't even thought of before. So that is getting yourself ready for the future. And I think the cloud is the vehicle to do so.
And if I can add on to that, Dave, I can't express enough just looking at the total cost of ownership. And this is as unfortunate as we are having to be in a pandemic. But this is, again, as you highlighted, putting tech to the forefront. And I just remember, not to date myself, working in the trading industry for quite some time and dealing with the rapid volatility and change and the pace that we had to drive at. And therefore, I think in the trading industry, people already recognize that tech was going to be a key driver to underpinning the successes and being the differentiator in the business. If you could incorporate that as part of your key piece of a driver for your business, then that was how you were going to be more successful. And now what really is really great is the fact that people now realize not only do they now know what cloud is and capabilities that it provides, but it's made my job a lot easier to get everybody on board. And people that haven't started the journey yet, it will make your job a lot easier because now everyone understands it and understands that technology itself has to be one of the key pillars, along with your business strategy and other things to meet your overall end outcomes. It's not just a side by central organizational IT for IT. And oh, by the way, can I have a computer or the bells and whistles? It's digital across the board in your mindset and the way that you're thinking and how you drive and what you do with the tools and the capabilities across your organization, making technology key and fundamental to how you actually get to where you're trying to go, no matter what business you're in, to drive those outcomes. That makes this message a lot easier for people to understand that it's a priceless proposition, and therefore any optimization that you get is just further goodness with it all. That's my thought.
I think that you hit on I think something fundamental that has come to the forefront more and more now. When leaders treat digital just as a supportive lever or another implementation tool, the investment logic is one around operating expense with rapid payback, all kinds of quantitative metrics. In contrast, when leaders treat digital as a strategy shaping mechanism, really core to your strategy, as you explained, Keisha, the investment logic is one of capital expense to shape the future of business and drive that resiliency that is so necessary. And for me, that has been an interesting change in vision, where it went from just one of the many tools in my toolbox to help me drive an outcome, to really an understanding, and glad to see that BP has gone through that as well. It is so core to your strategy and success of the future that you really need to treat it as a strategic enablement.
Absolutely.
I think that's a great place to wrap up today. Cloudreach are bringing to market smart migrations, which use predictive analytics and pattern spotting and previous data to try and accelerate an organization's move into the cloud for varying different areas. And that's really with a mind to getting to that value. So getting there as fast as possible and thereby unlocking some of the value that we've just been talking about. So thank you very much to Keisha and Arno, giving up an hour of their very, very valuable time. We hope you found this helpful in terms of an insight into what partnership in the cloud can do and how it can transform your organization. If you have any questions following up, do feel free to ping me directly. I'm dave@cloudreach.com, so quite easy to remember. And feel free to link into us on LinkedIn And you can also, of course, find us on cloudreach.com. So thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.